So Cameron, you've done a lot of filming with some of our YouTube guys, done a lot of articles. What's the number one question, or maybe number two question that comes with AirForce? Because people love AirForce, but they always ask one thing. What is it?
You mean besides when's the Silenced Texan coming out?
Yes, besides the Silenced Texan.
They want a rotary mag AirForce gun.
Yeah, they want a rotary-based AirForce
repeater.
Gun. I have a surprise for you. Halfway there. You ready?
Let's see it.
The AirForce International Orion. And that's what we're going to review today on Under Pressure.
So guys, AirForce International is a subsidiary of AirForce Air Guns, and basically what they do is they go out, search the world over for some of their favorite air rifles that aren't currently being sold in the US, and then they bring them in as an importer and rebrand them with the Air Force logo. So these guns aren't necessarily made in the Air Force factory, but every single one of them does go through Air Force's quality control system, and before it gets that Air Force logo on it, they make sure it's going to be a gun that meets their standards.
Okay, because these are built in the Cometa factory over in Spain, but then Air Force gets them, and they've really done the once-over on them to get them up to their standards. They make sure the accuracy's there, so they miss with the barrel. And in fact, this is an Air Force trigger in it and an Air Force shroud in it. So it's a hybrid. So that's why it gets the Air Force name on it, because it meets their approval. So when I first saw the Orion, I thought it looked a lot like the Coyote.
Yeah, they definitely share a lot in common, and given Gamo's original origins in Spain, I mean, it's no surprise. But there is a few obvious differences. One being, this giant suppressor here on the end.
And don't get me wrong, this moderator works really well, but it just looks a little bit off. Yeah. Still a great gun. Then obviously the Marauder. We don't have a wood Marauder with us, but you get the idea. The Marauder is awesome. It was awesome for the industry because sold a lot of PCPs, got a lot of you guys shooting. I'm sure half the audience, their first PCP is probably a Marauder.
It's hard to beat for an entry-level gun because the aftermarket support is so good for it.
Right.
And so I think the big difference kind of between the two is the Marauder is kind of a gun that I think a lot of people buy if they're looking to tinker and they want to make it better, they want to play around with it. The Orion's kind of more something that you want to take it out of the box, shoot it, put it in your safe, and just pull it out and use it the way it was intended, not mess with it. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, one of our favorite guns of that entry level is the AT-44 from Hatsan.
Yep.
This has turned into probably one of our better sellers over the last year and a half.
I wrote a head-to-head review a few months back, which was a little bit controversial, I think, where I said that I feel like for the money, the AT-44 is a little bit better gun than the Marauder.
Right.
A lot of that has to do with the trigger and the side lever action, which is incredibly smooth. The one downfall to the AT-44 is it is a mile long. It is a big gun. Big.
So how's the Orion different? And as I mentioned, when I got the gun, I just felt like it was a little bit better combined. And there's pros and cons to everything. There's no perfect gun. And maybe it's the length, as I mentioned. I love that shorter length. It's just compact. It's nice. But this comes in right at 7.7 pounds, unscoped. And the weight, since it's a little bit more compact, it doesn't feel it. How did you feel as you're shooting?
Yeah, no, I definitely felt it's a well-balanced gun, easy to shoot offhand. Your barrel length on this is 38.5 inches, which is anywhere from 2 to 4 inches shorter than the competitor. So having that integrated shroud really makes a difference. The one thing that stood out for me with the Orion too is the trigger. It's not quite as good as the Quattro. It's still got some of that creep, a little bit of mush in there, but it is by far better than the trigger that is in the Coyote.
I also like it's the simple things. I already mentioned the cheek rest. I mentioned the sling studs because, especially on a traditional rifle, I want to throw a sling on it. Even simple things like the Coyote is a fill probe. I always lose my fill probes. This is a Foster on the end. I just love the. I feel like every manufacturer just put a Foster on there, even if you have to recess it. And maybe it's those small touches. I know Air Force has been working with Cometa for almost a year now, fine-tuning it. And that little, instead of rushing it to market, maybe it just comes together a little bit better. One thing I'll mention, the mag on this, these are much like a lot of the European magazines. It's a 13-round mag, so like the Marauder, AT-44, and the Coyote, those are all 10-round mags, so you get 3 extra rounds in here. It is that European style where you have to spin it and put the first pellet in. Once you figure it out, it's no big deal. So I do like that mag. So I want to go to the tape camera because I couldn't sleep this morning, so at 5 a.m., came in, got a bunch of tins of pellets, and just shot for like an hour and a half. I highly recommend it over coffee. It'll wake you up. It's awesome. But let's take a look here. So previously, all last week as I was shooting this Orion, I was using probably my favorite JSB 22 caliber pellet, the Jumbo Heavy 18.13 grain. It seems to shoot well in every gun we put it in. And sure enough, you can see by the group here, it's 3/4 inch. This is all at 50 yards. Awesome group, so I wanted to open it up and see what other pellets we could go. So I tried the Jumbo Beast. That's that really heavy 22 cal, and it didn't like that at all. It really opened up. That was no good. Tried the H&N Crow Magnums, and no good on those either. That was like an 1.5 inch group. So then I was getting a little worried because it felt so good about this gun. So next I tried the new GTO lead-free from Predator. These are new pellet from them. A lot of people who want to go lead-free. They worked really, really well. I had the one flyer, that was definitely me. Tried the Jumbo Monsters. I mean, they stacked up. You can see that was, 1.25 inches, so not bad at 50 yards. But then probably the best, if you're looking for a heavy pellet, these Ultra Shocks. You can see my group here. Had the one flyer up top. It was definitely an inch group, and really happy with these. I know you've been using these in a few guns. You've liked these, haven't you?
Yeah, especially the really powerful PCPs that tend to throw pellets, especially lighter ones, really fast. I like those Ultra Shocks because they slow down a little bit. They're good for long range accuracy. They buck the wind a little bit, and they've got a good broad strike surface. So when you're shooting game with them, they give you a lot of expansion without a ton of penetration. So I think they're a great small game pellet. So that's good to see they performed really well out of this gun.
So I think you're right when you mentioned with power they work really well. I think the reason those Ultra Shocks worked well is this is actually a really powerful gun. When I compare the JSB Ultra Heavies between all the guns, we're getting 35 foot-pounds on the Orion. Wow. The Coyote, let's rank them here. So this is 35 foot-pounds. The Coyote, only 31 foot-pounds. Amrod, obviously these are out of the box. I know you can tune the Amrod, but it was only 25 foot-pounds. And the AT-44 was also 35 foot-pounds. So surprising, considering this barrel is the shortest out of all of them. So clearly they've done some good work on the hammer and the valve. Yeah,
I noticed when shooting it there wasn't really any hammer bounce or anything like that. The valve timing seemed to be good. So I really do think they've done a good job of making sure the internals are spot on with this gun as well. And it makes a great hunting rifle.
So, I mean, what's not to love? Where did it fall short for you?
One thing for me was, even with the shroud, this thing is still pretty loud. We checked with our sound meter, this thing's getting in the 80 decibels, where the Marauder gets down around the 60s.
I know for me, it's like, the shroud still works. It's quiet, just not super quiet, right? And yeah, for all I know, AirForce, if you hear this, keep messing with the shroud. Maybe you can do something. But at the same time, I don't want it longer. I like the length of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that other than that, that was kind of really my only major downside. There's just a few little nitpicky things here and there that I found. Like one, I'm left-handed, and so I'd like to be able to switch the bolt over.
Oh, the bolt's not reversible.
It doesn't appear to be.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. I did notice on this bolt, it's a chunky bolt.
It is a chunky bolt.
I don't know, it just felt nice. It slid really well. I prefer a side lever, but it's still...
Yeah, I agreed. I like the side lever actions, but if you're going to have a bolt gun, I definitely like the rear bolt designs. They work really well, and they're easy to cycle. So the other thing I thought was a little wonky is the safety. It literally blocks the trigger. It is easy to access, but it can be a little bit hard to flick on with one finger. So if you're carrying it around on safe, and then you need to flick it off really quick to go ahead and take a quick shot, you might...
Granted, it is manual safety, so once you set it, you don't have to worry about it. So for the most part,
really good gun. Yeah. I think it'll be a good shooter, and I definitely think it's something that anybody would want to add to their safe. I don't think anybody would be upset with it.
Yeah, I think it's worthy of the AirForce name, and you should definitely look into it. So.
Yeah, totally agreed. If you're looking for an entry-level gun and some of the more traditional offerings aren't what you've been looking for, take a look at the Orion. I think you'll like it. Guys, we really enjoy bringing these to you, being in these new guns. We try to get them as quick as we can. We like being the first ones to see the new stuff.
We're competitive like that.
So we hope you enjoyed this quick little look at the new Orion from AirForce International. Make sure to let us know if you got any questions or comments. Leave them down in the comment section below.
We will answer quickly.
So guys, leave us any comments you have. Make sure to let us know what you think about the new AirForce International Orion. And we'll catch you next time on Under Pressure.